Senator Whish-Wilson.
Following recent comments made by the Reserve Bank Assistant Governor Malcolm Eddy regarding risk management to help avoid another global financial crisis, and I quote, "For regulators that means holding financial players to better standards of probity and prudence than prevailed in the past," and this backed by comments from Charles Littrell, Executive Manager of APRA, who said, "If you show me a country where the politicians listen to bankers more than they listen to regulators, I will show you a country which is guaranteed to have a banking crisis." Is this Liberal National Government still pursuing Senator Sinodinos's unpopular amendments to the Future of Financial Advice legislation, supported only by the big banks in the financial services industry, by removing protection for consumers and subjecting them to more risk in financial investment?
The Minister representing the Assistant Treasurer, Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and I thank Senator Whish-Wilson for that question. And with all due respect to the Senator, he is mixing up a whole series of different concepts that are actually in different buckets. Let me just make a first point. Regulators like regulating. And if you left regulators to their own devices, they will always find a way to make things more stable, more safe, and in the end it will be so safe that none of us will move. And of course, in an economy that we want to grow, it is a matter of getting the balance right. You've got to make sure you get the balance right between sensible regulation while making sure that economic activity can continue to happen in an efficient way. And of course, the banks, our financial institutions and so on play very important roles as facilitators in the economy. And it is fair to say that in the context of the global financial crisis, the banking sector and the financial services sector in Australia actually performed very well. Now, when it comes to the future of financial advice changes, Labor in government used the cover of the global financial crisis, used the cover of the storm financial collapse to pursue a whole range of vested interest agendas that were very close to the heart of the union-dominated industry funds to essentially impose excessive, costly, unnecessary red tape, which makes—
Senators on my left, order. It's Senator Whish-Wilson's question. He is entitled to hear the answer without your interjections. Senator Cormann, continue.
Thank you very much,
order.
Mr. President.
Senator Lyons.
Our commitment in relation to financial services is to ensure that we get the balance right between appropriate levels of consumer protection while making sure that access to high-quality financial advice remains available and remains affordable. Now, we've said in opposition that Labor went too far, that Labor imposed too much costly red tape, pushing up the cost of doing business and pushing up the cost of advice for consumers, leading to increased concentration, a lessening of competition in the financial services sector, all things that are not in the public interest, and we are restoring some balance in the regulatory arrangement for the financial services.
Time has expired for answering the question. Senator Whish-Wilson.
On reflecting whether we got the balance right in this country, Senator Cormann, considering
you need a question.
Considering in some financial advisors who recommended investments in collapsed forestry MIS schemes receive commissions of up to 10% on each investment, and that the structure of forestry MIS has been described as encouraging a type of Ponzi scheme where this year's fees are being used to pay last year's expenses, how will the government ensure that the repeal of the FOFA legislation doesn't revive the Liberal National Party's systemic failed model of managed investment schemes in this country, and especially Tasmania's forestry and agricultural sectors?
Order. That is not the way. That is not the way I will respond to anything. It's disorderly. Order. 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 The Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. And again, I mean, Senator Whish-Wilson is mixing up a whole series of different concepts here. Let me just make the general point up front. The most stringent regulation is not going to eliminate criminal or fraudulent behaviour across Australia. You cannot regulate for a perfect world, and if you're going to try to regulate for a perfect world, like, nobody's going to do anything. The second point I would make is that, for example, the so-called opt-in requirement legislated by Labor, forcing people to re-sign contracts on a regular basis with their financial advisors, would have done nothing to prevent the storm financial collapse. Storm financial clients were actively engaged with their financial services provider, but they were getting bad, inappropriate advice. and the costly imposition of additional red tape on business and additional red tape on consumers, leading to increased concentration in the financial services market, would not actually improve the situation. Change is only good when it makes
Your
things
time
better.
has expired for answering the question. Senator Whish-Wilson.
The National Farmers Federation have stated current MIS structures do not promote sound investment decisions in rural and regional areas, and as such have created a distortion of land values and/or commodity markets. In light of this, will you reconsider the tax engineering and dodgy Liberal National Party industry development plans that underlie these schemes by beginning with a full review of MIS and the regulations surrounding it in the promised taxation white paper?
Order. The Minister. Order. Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. What I would invite Senator Whish-Wilson to do is to expand on his question in the submission to the tax reform white paper process, and we'll consider all of these sorts of suggestions along all of the submissions that are made.
Senator Fawcett.